Hello everyone. This is the first video of my Learn to Sew series. I'm hoping to help some people who have just received their sewing machine or who are just now starting to sew. This is my machine. I have actually two Singers that are pretty similar. One was an embroidery sewing combo, and I wanted a regular machine as well so that I could leave the embroidery arm on the other one. But they thread the same and everything. But I also wanted to show you my daughter's, because this is a computerized machine, or I'm sorry, an electronic machine, and hers is a mechanical machine. So I will show you at the end of this video her machine, because there are a few differences. Like mine is a drop-in bobbin and hers is a front-loading bobbin. And hers, most machines, the thread comes around. That's your bobbin. Good girl. Most machines, they'll come down, back up, and back down, and I'll show you that on her machine. But mine, this is called a Swift Smart Threading System, so I only go down one time. But I want to show you a couple parts of the machine that will most likely be the same on your machine. On the top area, you're going to have your spool pin. And this is where you put your thread. And you'll have a bobbin winder most of the time. It's usually around here somewhere. And this is where you will wind your bobbin from this thread here. Here is my tension dial. Now, my tension dial is inside the shell. Some machines will have a tension dial on the outside. It'll be like a round looking thing, or I'm sorry, the tension disc will be on the outside, and it'll be a round looking thing, and you basically thread your machine around it somehow. You can always look at your user manual if you're unsure on how to thread something. Here is my presser foot. When you're threading your machine, you always want your presser foot in the up position, and I put mine up using my presser foot lever. You always want it in the up position when you're threading, because when it's going through the tension discs, you want those loose and apart. If your presser foot were down, your tension discs would be tight together and your thread wouldn't go through it right. And then here's, of course, the needle. My machine has an automatic needle threader. And I think that's all you need to know. Oh, here's where my machine is plugged in. One of them is connected to an outlet, and one of them is connected to my, I'm sorry for my trash being full, my presser, or my foot pedal. And it's controlled just like a gas pedal on a car. You push it slightly, your machine will go slowly. You push it more, your machine will speed up. So let's go ahead and thread it. So with my machine, my spool pin will lift up. Okay, so here's my thread. Some threads will have a little slit where it will hold the thread when you're storing it. This one happens to have, you just wind it around, but that side holds it. This side doesn't have that. This is the side then that I want my thread to come from. So, since my thread will come in this direction, I want to put my spool pin on, or my spool on the spool pin this way. Then my machine came with a spool pin felt. I'll put that right here. And it also came with some spool pin caps. You always want to choose the cap that is just a little bit bigger than your spool of thread. So that one works for me. Get some of these things out of my way. Okay, so once I have that done, I can push my spool pin down, and
hey, that's my book.
I know.
That's my book.
Now, most newer machines especially will have a path to follow. They'll either be numbered or there will be pictures. You can see that there's an arrow going this direction and an arrow going this direction. I'm going to show you how to wind your bobbin right now. So I want to follow this arrow because it is showing me the path to take to wind my bobbin. So I grab my thread and it's telling me that I need to go in between this metal thing and the plastic shell and come through. And I like to floss it a little bit just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And it's telling me that I need to wrap around here one time. So I wrap around it and then I pull my thread through. And here's a bobbin. There's always going to be a hole in your bobbin, and you want to thread your thread from the inside toward the outside through one of the holes. And then snap it onto my bobbin winder. And I want to hold my tail, and I will slide it over, and that engages my bobbin winder. On this machine, all I have to do is turn it on, and my on switch is down here at the side, and I just want to step on my foot pedal. Now once it's gone for a while, instead of holding that the whole time, the thread tail, I can go ahead and snip it off. It's not going to come undone now because it's been wound a bit. This will stop, if you have this on your machine, it will stop your bobbin when it's full. It'll stop automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and press on my foot pedal and finish winding. Once you have wound your bobbin, you can go ahead and snip this thread. It'll be like that. You can snip this thread, disengage your bobbin winder, and pull your bobbin off. To insert your bobbin on my drop-in sew bobbin, you want your thread coming downward from the left-hand side. Another way that I've learned to remember is it's going to look like a P with your thread coming down, and then this is your P circle. You're going to drop it into your bobbin area, and let me get this closer. There's going to be a little groove here that you want your thread to come through, and on mine is very easy. All I do is, there we go. All I do is I follow this path up, and I have a knife here, a blade right here, and I just bring my thread back down, and the blade will cut it. Will cut my bobbin, and that's it. A lot of machines you'll have to bring the bobbin thread up, and I will show you how to do that on my daughter's. But at mine, all I have to do is replace the bobbin cover, thread my machine, and I'm good to go. So let me show you how to thread it. Okay. We already have our spool on. So now we want to follow the arrow pointing downward because that is our thread path for regular sewing. So the same thing between this metal thing and my shell. Floss my thread, bring it all the way down. Now remember that my presser foot is in the up position. My presser foot's in the up position so that my tension disc is separated. So I also floss a little bit down here just to make sure it went through my tension discs. Every machine has a little guide right above the needle, and this is important to thread your needle through that. My machine has the automatic needle threader, so I'm going to use it. Read your manual to figure out how to use your threader. Now usually you want your needle in the highest position for that to work, and if you don't have an automatic needle threader, you can thread it manually, but mine does. And my thread is now through my eye. I want to bring it under my foot and bring it around to the back of the machine. And now I can show you how to sew a regular seam. I have two pieces of fabric. We can pretend that this is our garment or quilt squares or whatever. I want to place them right sides together. Usually you don't want to sew with the selvage edge, and the selvage edge is this finished edge here that comes, it comes on two sides of the fabric when the fabric comes from the bolt. You usually want to get rid of that, but since this is just a tutorial and these are just scrap pieces of fabric, I'm going to put them right sides together, lining up one edge. And if you want to, you can go ahead and use pins to hold it in place. You would just put the pin through and back up, and you would pin all the way along. But I'm not gonna worry about pinning it today. So right sides or pretty sides together. This is the edge that we're gonna sew. You want to turn your machine on. I have a straight stitch selected. Now, I'm in the States and we use inches, so our patterns call for either 3/8, 5/8, half an inch, or 1/4 inch seam, and those are clearly marked on my needle plate. But for now, I'm just going to use the edge of my presser foot for a guide. So when you're sewing, you put your presser foot down, and like I said, mine is on the side. My presser foot lever, some are on the back, some are controlled by your knee, which I would like one of those one day, but for now, I put my foot down on the side. Straight stitches selected over here. This is my stitch selector. If I wanted to use any other stitches, I would just select them down here. Now, my machine comes with factory settings. Whenever you turn your machine on, every time you turn it on, it'll reset each stitch to factory settings. And what that means is the straight stitch is at about a 5 for length, and that would be factory settings. If I wanted a longer stitch, I would just increase or decrease. But if I turned it off and turned it back on, it would be back to the 5 millimeters in length. So we're going to go ahead and sew our seam now. When you're sewing, you have one hand on the side and one hand in front, and you're not pushing or pulling. You are simply letting the feed dogs, which are the little teeth underneath your presser foot, you're letting them grab the fabric and pull it along on its own. What you're doing when you're holding the fabric is you're just holding it steady so that your lines are straight. So you put your presser foot down right on the edge, and you sew forward a couple stitches and then backward a couple stitches, and that will secure your stitch so that it won't come apart. Here we go. So I'm going to sew forward a few stitches, and then I'm going to back tack a few stitches, and then I'm going to go forward again, and that just locks my stitches in place. So then you come all the way down to the end, and then same thing at the end. Go to the end, back up a few stitches, and come forward again a few stitches. And that just secures it so that it doesn't come apart on you. My machine has a thread cutter here, or you can snip. So if this were a garment or a quilt block, you would take it to your ironing board and you would press the seams open. First you would press the seams right here. You would press it while it was closed, and that would set your stitches, and then you would open it up and either press the seams to one side or open the seams up like this, and then you would iron them open like that. If you don't have a serger, you can always, like if this were a garment, you wouldn't want the edges to fray, and they would fray with wear and washing. So I like to just select a zigzag stitch on my stitch selector and just do a quick little zigzag stitch along the edge to encase the raw edge. And